Hi, everybody. Welcome to Craft, Authors in Conversation. I'm Denise Kiernan. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight, I have two fantastic guests. I have Ryan Silbert and I have Aaron Tracy, and we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. For those of you who are new to Craft, I'll tell you a little bit about it. This wonderful program used to be live and in person at the wonderful Little Jumbo in Asheville, North Carolina, where we would have conversation and specialty craft cocktails mixed for each individual author inspired by something about their personality or something they had written. In COVID times, we are now doing it here on the interwebs, but we still have the wonderful participation of Shawl, the mixologist from Little Jumbo, who always crafts something special for all of our guests. And he's done a really good one for tonight. I'm really excited. When I told Aaron and Ryan about the specialty cocktail, the question was, well, do we get the recipe so that we can have this ready for tonight? And I thought, in the future, that might actually be a really fun challenge for guests, that they would either have to mix while they were talking to me or be ready beforehand. But I don't have Shawl's cocktail, but I do have a little vodka soda here for me. If you guys have a drink, I would like to cheers you and welcome you. So thank you for coming. Okay, yes, Ron, you don't have to. We also still, our wonderful book sponsor is Malaprops here in Asheville, wonderful independent bookseller. If you click on that little green button below our heads, you see order books from Malaprops. I lovingly suggest that you do that. Always important to support local bookstores. They are a fantastic one. They have certainly been wonderful to our community and everybody who's come to join me. During the conversation, you guys feel free to chat amongst each other in the little chat bar over there. But if you have a question, please click on that little button down there that says ask a question. That keeps all the questions corralled in one place so I don't miss anything, so that when we get to the Q&A portion, I'm sure to get to everybody's questions and I don't miss it in the scrolling on the sidebar. Joe, as always, will be lurking in the text, in the chat. If interesting things come up, he will be sure to plug in relevant links, etc., so that Joe is lurking, so that we can follow up with this. In our recap, I send out a recap after every craft event, where I'll just kind of go over what we did here. The video will also be available on my YouTube channel. So without further ado, I think I hit everything. The recap, the chat, the ask a question. So Ryan and Aaron, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Where are you guys coming from today?
Thank you.
I'm in Brooklyn, in Dumbo.
Nice. Ryan?
I'm still here in the midst of Manhattan on the 23rd Street, fighting the zombie hordes.
Aaron, I actually used to take boxing lessons in Dumbo.
Oh, at the gym around the corner? I heard that Muhammad Ali used to train there. Is that right?
He did. Muhammad Ali used to train there, and Jake LaMotta,
Wow.
Raging Bull. Yep, all that
Cool.
stuff.
I've been too scared to walk in.
No,
Yeah.
It's a little scary when you walk in, but they'll, believe me, if they took me, they'll take anybody.
Wow.
And I had a really good time. The speed bag is so therapeutic, just hitting something over and over and over again. As a writer, it was really lovely. But I stopped once we got to they wanted me to actually start sparring with people, and I didn't want to get hit anywhere, really. I just wanted to hit other things, but I love Dumbo. So one of the first things I wanted to ask is, because we're going to talk a bit about process and collaboration, because that can be so challenging for creative folks of all stripes. How do you two know each other?
We went to college together. We met freshman year at Cornell. And, Cornell was not a big film school at the time. I'm not sure if it is now, but we were both giant film buffs. And so really got to know each other through a writing for film class and just going to movies in Ithaca and on campus. And that was kind of like a rare find, I think, for Cornell.
Ryan, you have said before that everything you know you learned from Aaron. Is there anything specific you want to point out that you've learned from Aaron?
Oh boy,
Can't even
you
think of
hear me?
anything.
All right.
Yeah.
No, can you hear me?
Oh
Oh man, what did I learn from Aaron? The West Wing, the
Mm.
first thing.
yeah. Okay.
The second thing is the West Wing. We watched a lot of that. No, really, I think for Aaron, it was good because you could always throw like conversations around directors. Like we would just talk about, I mean, things that probably normal 18, 20-year-olds aren't talking about, like Mcnichols movies, things like that. Or like, so you think, 70s thrillers, all that kind of stuff. You don't find simpatico people to talk about that kind of stuff with in college for the most part. So Aaron and I were nerds in our own right.
Yeah, we were both 70s thriller fans for sure.
Nice.
Ryan had this amazing, I mean, this is back in the day, Ryan had this amazing DVD collection. And so back then it was, it's not that easy to get your hands on whatever you want to see. So we would spend a lot of time watching movies and watching commentary tracks and that kind of thing.
I actually love the.
That's right. Aaron was like the minimalist.
Yeah.
I had the collection.
Yeah, I still rented.
I prefer getting the DVDs a lot of times because the extras are often, especially for movies that were made a long time ago, nobody thought that anyone would ever see these little documentaries they were making behind the scenes. So I remember, I love The Shining. I love The Shining. And if on the DVD has behind the scenes extras that were filmed by Kubrick's daughter.
Oh, cool.
She's running around with the camera. No one ever thinks this thing that she's shooting is ever going to be seen by anyone. And so everybody's really relaxed, and it's not that kind of, now you watch extras and most of the time what you see is we're like a family. The film set is like a family, and it goes like that. This was really pretty raw, and it is a fantastic thing to get your hands on if you can, because it is about as real as it gets when it comes to movie making, because that was a very intense set as well as an intense film. So big fan of the DVD collection myself. So as writers, and you've done a lot of different kinds of things. You've both done television and film. You come from, film school, like you said. A lot of what we do at times is incredibly solitary. So even though you're close and you've known each other for a long time, how did you know you'd be able to collaborate creatively?
You want to start, Ryan?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay between your voice and your picture, so let me make sure I'm getting that. But yeah, I think that how do you know? You don't know until you try. And Aaron and I have tried on small projects before this. We've just toyed around and kind of got a sense of each other's voice, and we're very different types of writers. We have very different types of interests, even though a lot of them overlap. And we bring a lot of different things to the table. I think in a way that's very good. And it's definitely makes for more fun and vibrant collaboration. So part of it was just testing the waters, and we were just, I don't know, Aaron, do we talk like before we started collaborating? We would speak probably every couple of weeks about movies and TV we watched, and different approaches to our own writing and work as producers on our different projects. So
yeah, I mean, I think
very natural.
Yeah, the cool thing about this was my first audio drama. And Ryan, it was certainly one of your first, if not your first. And so that was a brand new medium for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in TV, I often work with the same collaborator, and some on my own. But for this, it was like just a whole new world. And so we needed to figure out a million different things, very much like world building. Like, how do you write without pictures, to sort of say the obvious? Once you're starting to write dialogue, how do you write dialogue that has some subtext to it? If the viewer or if the listener is not able to see an expression, made by one of your actors, do they just have to sort of say everything that they're feeling at all times? I mean, that obviously leads to really bad writing. So it's all those kinds of 1+1 very basic questions that Ryan and I were able to talk through and figure out. And then we went back to our favorite 70s movies. I remember in the writer's room one day, we just decided, let's do an episode based on Blow Up, the old De Palma film.
Yeah.
And so we just spent a while like rewatching Blow Up
day.
and like coming up with all of our favorite moments from it and how they might adapt to this specific story we were telling. So it was a lot of that kind of thing.
You're getting.
Yeah, I mean, look, then,
go ahead,
Ryan.
Ryan.
We all work in different ways.
You guys are
No, we all work in different ways, and I think that's like. I was going to say, like, the way we work is also setting up very unmovable milestones in the beginning. Like Aaron and I both love the audio format, so we just made this to be the best audio drama we could make it, and we were never looking to like make it a different kind of thing. So we were very invested in like the format and the medium, and like never deterred from that. Like it was never like, okay, let's try to make this into a TV show or movie. We wanted to really explore the medium itself, and that's, I think, kind of those rules in the beginning as a collaboration help sort of set the stage for everything that comes after. We also knew we wanted to make it very cinematic in an auditory sense, which is why we revisited those 70s movies. So like, I mean, even up until like this now, the promotional side, we're even talking that language now. So like it kind of stuck the whole way, which is really nice.
You guys are both getting into something that's one of my favorite topics, which is how the medium affects the storytelling, how you have to shift and adjust as a writer depending on the medium. So before we go much further, because I'm actually doing an audio drama myself, and whenever I tell anyone that, they always say, well, is that an audiobook? So why don't you guys talk, because this is a rapidly expanding field, and I think it's actually a very exciting one for writers. Talk a little bit about what an audio drama is and how it's different from a radio play, how it's different from an audio book, something like that, so everybody understands this very specific medium that we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm very much an evangelist for this. I think audio dramas are fantastic. The truth is, it's not that different from a radio play, an old-fashioned 1940s radio play. A lot of times, if you re-listen to one of those, like The Shadow, you'll hear just the problem that I brought up before, where there's no subtext, right? It's all exposition, or a lot of it is exposition. Characters are telling you what's on their minds at all times. And so I think the writing has become a little bit more sophisticated. But in terms of storytelling without pictures, it's very, very similar. When I write an audio drama, it's very much like the same process as when I'm writing TV. Starting with a writer's room, coming up with a season arc, coming up with individual, smaller arcs for the characters, smaller plot arcs that can, sort of rise and fall throughout the season. And then scene writing. And the scene work is a little bit different in that, whenever I write TV, at most, a TV scene can be 3 pages, right? Which is roughly 3 minutes. In an audio drama, I'll write 8, 9, 10, 11 pages. An audience, I hope, can handle that, can sit for a little bit longer, or whatever they're doing while they're listening. But you don't have to transition as much. And that does allow you to get deeper into scenes. It allows you to build character sort of more organically. When you don't have the aid of visuals, you can just have people talking about their feelings more. But otherwise, I treat it very similarly to how I write TV.
And Ryan?
I mean, to mirror what Aaron's saying, I think going back to that DVD commentary thing, on the extras for a lot of the 1940s and 50s films, you would see that they would coincide with a radio serial that they either based on the film or the film was based on. Wizard of Oz is a good example of that. Treasure Sierra Madre, I think, has one. Big Sleep has one. So it's always been informing 2 different parallel paths in film and TV, and film and audio, and TV and audio. So these things coexist in really interesting ways, and overlap in certain ways, and in other ways like Aaron's saying, the approach can be very similar. The one thing that I will say that's different than an audiobook is you can really, truly hand over a lot of the heavy lifting to your actors. And we have an amazing cast in The Coldest Case. And when you're writing, you can really rely on them to carry so much of the weight of the subtext. And having faith in that in the writing process, I think for Aaron and I was super, super important, right, Aaron?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I mean, Denise, you obviously know this as you're doing one now yourself, but it's very different than an audiobook. It really is drama.
Yeah.
It's entirely characters speaking to each other in scenes. It's entirely scene work. A lot of the audio dramas you'll hear have narrators, oftentimes omniscient narrators. I'm not a big fan of that. Sometimes, obviously, it can work great. I'm actually writing one now where I have a bit of a narrator. I'm aiming for that sort of Fleabag, American Psycho type narrator, where the narrator is a bit unreliable. But you'll, I think it's the sign of sort of a bad audio drama when they have a narrator who comes in every few minutes to just sort of set the table for us. It just sort of indicates that the writers don't really have faith in the scene work.
That's a good point. And I do want to shift to The Coldest Case, like to look at that a little bit more specifically. So what date does The Coldest Case come out? Isn't it within like 2 weeks or something? Close?
March 11th, a week from Thursday.
March 11th. Okay. All right. This is set in a James Patterson universe, The Coldest Case. It is also the very first audio original from James Patterson as well. What was it like he's pretty well known. What was it like to actually step into the creative universe, another writer's creative universe?
Yeah. I think there's maybe a delay for Ryan, so I'll start and then you can go, Ryan. So my favorite fact about James Patterson is 1 out of every 10 hardback books in print is by James Patterson. So he has, I mean, a giant following. People expect something when they read a James Patterson. The trademarks are, really great stories, really compelling thrillers, really short chapters, really punchy short chapters. We tried to mimic a lot of that with this audio drama. Obviously, it's not, you can't sort of go one for one, but I think people will find that, really, and obviously Jim was our great collaborator on this, reading everything, contributing. So he's got his hands all over this, and it will really feel like a James Patterson. I have a good friend who was the showrunner and creator of a James Patterson TV show last year, and I got sort of some tips from him. It's called Instinct on CBS. So, what's great about Jim is he enables his collaborators to, take the universe that he has built and kind of run wild in it, which is what, my friend Michael did with Instinct, and it's sort of what we have done with The Coldest Case.
Yeah, I think I'm on a delay because New York in the middle of this pandemic has a delay.
Yeah, I'm in New York too, so that's not a good excuse.
I think that I'm just going to come up with an excuse. Retrograde? Look, I think that this is one of the greatest, in addition to being one of the greatest authors and most popular authors of all time, he's also, I think, Patterson has created an incredible template for what it means to be a collaborator. And I think that goes across all mediums. And that's also one of the things that's wonderful about his ability to identify trends and work and innovate himself. And he's always looking to do different kinds of things. So obviously bringing a James Patterson universe for the first time to an audio drama is very exciting for us. But also the fact that Coldest Case, audio dramas are serialized storytelling. Always have been, always will be. Comic books themselves came out of the audio drama. So Patterson, as a collaboration, as a person who is so respects the idea of collaboration, I think that this is a really strong kind of medium for working within his universe. So we're excited for people to listen to it finally.
That's fantastic. The idea that at what part of the process did Patterson come in, and what was that like for for you guys? I know sometimes when I'm collaborating with someone, I want to sort of go off in my little hole for a little while, let my brain come up with what I think have something to give someone to react to, as opposed to, hey, here's what we're going to do. How do you guys like to, when you collaborate either with each other or with others, or with someone like Patterson, do you sort of like to go off on your own, come up with what you believe to be the best interpretation, the best storytelling method, and then see how they react to it? Or do you kind of want to get the sort of the ground rules, some parameters from the get-go?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for talking about this kind of stuff and listening to this kind of stuff. In TV, I was always sort of blown away. Matt Weiner and Terry Winter talk about how, like with The Sopranos, David Chase would come up with the season story, right, sort of on his own, or maybe with one or two collaborators, and then he would come into the writers' room, and then everybody, he would say, we're going from A to B this season, and then everybody would sort of start chipping in and figuring out what happens between those two goalposts, which I think is really smart, because it gives you, a singular vision that everybody can then, work within. And so when Matt Weiner ran Mad Men, it was the same thing. It's like, this is the season between Don's two marriages. With Patterson, he was involved from the very beginning. I should sort of clarify, what we did is a very strange thing. This is not an adaptation. This is not like a dramatic telling of one of his books. We took his book, The Black Book, and we are doing a prequel to it as an audio drama. So we're taking the characters from the book, The Black Book, and we are dramatizing a bunch of them 5 years before the events of The Black Book.
So this is a completely new James Patterson story.
Completely new, completely original. Yeah. So, it was very important that he be involved. He's the one who created all these characters after all. He's the one that created the tone of the book that we were sort of, mimicking in terms of the universe. I was always amazed at how quickly he would respond to anything. I mean, like I said, this is the best-selling author in the history of the world. We would send him a document on a Friday, like literally, like it could be a 2-page story outline, or a story area, or it could be a 20-page outline. He would get back to us by Monday. I don't know how he does that. He's publishing, 10 books a year, or maybe more, maybe Ryan, how many, but he was always on top of everything, giving really smart notes. He knows his audience. He knows what the story should be like. And so we would always, really rely on him. And then Ryan and I had a, sort of a mini writer's room to get, sort of other voices involved and come up with the season story. And then Ryan and I went off and wrote the episodes.
Now,
Ryan, do you want
to? Yeah, I think want Ryan to weigh in on that too. Yeah. And Ryan, you've worked with Stan Lee, you've worked within the Stephen King world. Can you kind of talk a little bit, same question I just put out about process, whether or not you want to put your own story out there and get a reaction or get parameters from the get-go, but also, talk about how this situation was similar or different from other work you've done in other people's worlds.
Yeah, it's a good question, and like Aaron said, it's fun to talk about, and it's always fun to listen to people's process in this when it comes to collaboration. What I will say about the way that those kinds of titans all work in a very similar fashion is that they're all fans of the genres that they work in themselves. Yeah. So what's amazing, and then also are so well informed about other things outside of just the world they work in. So, Patterson, outside of just being a mystery writer, is a fan of just culture and is a consummate carnivore of all of this kind of stuff. And same as Stan, same as Steve. So it's all, a lot of it is informed by also like how Aaron and I work, which is, you're looking at all of what's come before and you're trying to figure out what can I add, what else can I say in that sort of tone, in sort of inside that genre. And part of what I think was great about Black Book for an audio drama, and very early on, the three of us, I think, is that it was these characters, the way it's set up. It's it's a family of detectives. It's a very complex interpersonal story among them outside of their professional lives, and it made the fun of writing some of these scenes, like Aaron was saying. That's like ultimately in audio drama, you're there and you're sitting in a room, or a lot of these things are contained in very imaginative ways to create audio ambience. the city of Chicago plays a big role in our story. And that's what made, I think, Black Book an attractive proposition to turn into a prequel audio drama. But really, it was about finding, these all these guys are just huge fans of the work outside of just the stuff that they work on. So it's, it really makes these stories a lot richer.
It's great to be able to feed off of that kind of enthusiasm, whether it's with any kind of collaborator. And Chicago, I personally, for me as a writer, and I think for a lot of people, locations as characters in and of themselves are such an incredible way to bring depth to any kind of story, to a true story, to fiction, whatever, just to really be able to bring cities alive. You talked a little earlier about some of the casting. So these are all, just so people understand, these are cast, and you guys have a fantastic cast. You have Aaron Paul, you have Krysten Ritter, you have Beau Bridges. Were you guys a part at all, or just kind of in the loop about the casting process? And did you expect to get such a spectacular group of actors to do this?
Yeah, and the bench is even deeper. Alexis Bledel, Mark Paul Gosselaar, Scott Cohen. Yeah, it's really an amazing cast. Karen Sony. Yeah, so I mean, the nice thing about these audio dramas is it's very much like TV, where the writer gets to be the executive producer, and so the writers get to make these decisions, which is great. So I believe, sort of the top three, the Aaron Paul, Krysten Ritter, Nathalie Emmanuel, were people that Audible very much wanted to work with. And so, we all had a big discussion, and we're very happy to cast those people. I mean, we're so lucky to cast those three. They were all incredible. And they have such great bodies of work. And then when it came time to casting all the rest, we would just sit down with our terrific producer, Brian, and our great director, Matt, and just talk about who made sense in each role, and then make the casting offer. And the nice thing was, we made this at the height of the pandemic, so nobody was working. Every single TV and movie was shut down. So these actors were really thrilled to be able to work, and they were able to do it out of their own homes. And one of the nice things with audio drama is you don't have to put on a costume, you don't have to put on makeup, you often don't have to leave your house. So you can kind of get people that you otherwise might not be able to get, right, Ryan?
Yeah, and you get great vocal actors to work against them, like Aaron and I, which was really one of the perks.
That was tough.
So look, this was a really fun way to work. Like, it wasn't intended to be recorded and produced during COVID. In no way was it. We greenlit it well before. It just happened to be our production dates aligned to this situation we found ourselves in. So everybody was game. It was neat for me because as an indie filmmaker prior to this, it's nice to get like into the weeds with everybody. And like, the actors were recording themselves. They were operating the Pro Tools at home. Like I said, Aaron and I were reading against them in many cases just to give them their line readings, remotely. Everybody got into it. And I think that's like a testament to kind of the spirit of what we intended to do, which was like everybody wanted to make the best product like possible. And that was really neat. And like Aaron said, Matt and Brian and like the incredible team that supported this, I think that like everybody was in it for the right reasons, which is kind of neat on a
my favorite
scale.
The best was it was the first person we recorded was Krysten Ritter, and really things were dark with the pandemic. She's so great.
I love her.
Yeah, seriously. So she
so good.
We sent her a kit, to try to record, which is a microphone and the various equipment that you need, which is kind of hard to set up. And she sort of said to us, well, I'm happy to try to figure this out, but we have a recording studio in my basement. Her husband is the lead singer of War on Drugs. So she was able to just go downstairs and have like this incredible professional studio. He had to come down and help her out a little bit to figure out like how to work everything. But we recorded her over the War for Drugs, home recording studio. So everybody got creative, and we got some good stories out of it.
That's really fascinating. Was she able to, were these actors able to read with each other since they're in different locations, or was everybody done individually?
Yeah, Ryan?
Yeah, we all did it individually. So we would, I mean, this is actually my first time having technical problems in 12 months and probably my whole life. But it was amazing. Like we dialed into their kit remotely, and we had an incredible support team in Broadway Video who produced this with Audible. Did the physical production, and we just figured, like Aaron said, it was all ingenuity. We were learning on the fly. Um, you know, that was
Yeah.
pretty incredible. But the performances really, really ring together so well, and that goes to why you hire great actors, and you just trust in them. Like you really, really trust your actors in an audio drama more than I think in anything else.
There is so much flexibility, when you try to look to the bright side or the pluses or things that we've needed to do during COVID that we did not need to do before. This, for example, I mean, usually if I was interviewing someone, it was when they physically came to Asheville, North Carolina, but now I get to talk to whoever, wherever they are. But when I did my I've done my last 2 audiobooks for books I've published, and for this one they literally had to set up, a mini sound studio in my living room with, with blankets, and there was an engineer here, and the director was in Los Angeles, and it was all over the map.
So you read the book yourself for the audio?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Was that a hard decision to make? I know that sometimes, like, did you think about having a professional actor, or you decided you just felt you knew the material well enough?
Well, for Girls of Atomic City, we cast the person who was going to read. And then for Last Castle, they asked if I wanted to do it. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to, because I'm comfortable doing that. And I've done, improv in graduate school or whatever. So it's something I'm comfortable with. But when I did The Last Castle, I mean, you go out to the big, like, recording mecca and all the sound rooms and directors and engineers and soundproof. I mean, it's so controlled and so perfectly managed. So then when We Gather Together came out, they said they liked The Last Castle. They said they wanted me to do it again. But we had to actually do it in my living room. And I'm glad it was not my first. I'm glad it was the second time I actually read a book cover to cover, because doing an entire book actually gets very, very exhausting. And your throat, I mean, it takes a little more out of you than you think it's going to. But
I did that, yeah.
We had, the mics are so sensitive. I mean, God forbid, I hate leaf blowers. I mean, I hate them anyway, but somebody could be using a leaf blower 5 blocks away, and we would have to shut everything down until, the yard was perfect or whatever was going on. Another time, the sound engineer I was working with goes, Denise, yes, have you eaten anything yet this morning? I said, I had a cup of coffee. He said, okay, I can hear your stomach through the mic. So we're going to take a break and you're going to go eat, because the mics pick up everything. So it was it was quite an adventure doing that. So I can and that's just me. That's just me reading. So I can imagine what it's like pulling all these different pieces together and making that come together. And then you really do appreciate the incredible ability of a talented actor to just bring a character to life, whether or not they're in costume or whether or not they're on a set, to just kind of find that within them and bring it out. So that must have been so exciting the first time you heard that. Speaking of like process between the two of you, did you write simultaneously and swap? Did you, one person start, the other person finish? Or did you divide up, like do an outline and then divide up the scenes? I'm always curious, because I have different ways of doing it when I've collaborated with people on book projects. I'm just curious about how you guys did that.
Yeah, every collaboration is different. I guess what I like most is just, dividing and then each reading each other's work. seems a lot easier to me. I'm always impressed when you hear about these sort of, especially it feels like an old timey thing, like Brackett and Wilder, who would just sit in the same room and one person would type and the other person would dictate. I would find that very, 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 very difficult. I need to be at the computer writing myself. And so we would just go back and forth.
Ryan?
What Aaron didn't know is that I was in the corner hiding in his closet, poking my head out, watching him type. No, I'm not sure jokes work when you're on a delay. The process was very, very much like Aaron described it, but I think what was neat about the process was that we both bring such different interests to the project. And like one of the things that I really admire about Aaron is that he really understands politics and like the way that kind of systems work. And I have a big nerdy tech science background, and together we found the story where we kind of were able to imbue both of those characteristics. So there's, you know,
Yeah, that's a good point.
whole hotbed of politics going on, and there's a whole hotbed of Bitcoin going on.
Nice.
Yeah.
From a nerdy writery perspective, any favorite software? Everybody always loves to talk about software. Any favorite software?
Really? I feel like I never talk about software. No, I just use Final.
I do everything initially by hand. I outline by hand.
Oh my God. Like
Yeah.
Tarantino and Mamet. I'm impressed.
Yes,
Wow.
people are always talking about the three of us at the same time.
Wow.
If you hear Mamet and Tarantino, Kiernan is like the next name. That happens all the time.
I just use Final Draft, but I'm curious if there's something I don't know about. Movie magic, I've tried a couple times. It's not for me. Is there
No,
anything else?
for script writing, I love Final Draft. For initial outlines and sketching, I'm a big by hand or giant whiteboard person.
Oh yeah, well we use a whiteboard, of course. Yeah, in the writer's room, lots of whiteboards are getting used. And then when it comes to writing, yeah, I guess at this point, you know, just having written a lot of, you know, just over the years, writing so many scripts for TV on Final Draft, my brain just knows how to create the character, create the dialogue. It's just automatic at this point. So going back to a pen on a yellow legal pad or something, oh my God, it would be awful. It would take 10 times as long.
The
Ryan?
process question, like what I think is interesting about the process question, what's interesting about the process question is how actually the actor, we were talking about this the other day, Aaron, if you remember, how the actors received lines and how they would like to receive lines from us and how sides worked in the audio space. And, you know, I made the huge mistake of reading like the whole scene setting for the actors.
That was very funny.
When I was doing the reading against them, in which case they only needed really a cup. Yeah, thank you.
Can we just make clear what you did? I'm not sure it's clear.
Elaborate a little bit on that before we go forward.
So he was reading opposite Nathalie Emmanuel.
Why don't you say it, Aaron?
Oh yeah, I have no problem with that. So he was reading opposite Nathalie Emmanuel, and she, you know, it was the first day, and so we weren't quite sure how, you know, they wanted us to work. And so what we eventually realized was they just need the cue lines. Like they have the script in front of them. They just need the cue lines so that they can sort of understand what they're responding to. But Ryan decided to read every single line in the scene. So he played all the different characters, including the cue lines, but then would keep going. So it ended up taking 9 times as long as it could have, until Nathalie very sweetly sort of said, you know, on the next pass, you know, next take, I think actually maybe you could just give me the cue line. It was adorable. It was very sweet.
But no, to be fair, in my delay and in my defense, what I would say is we changed that format though, if you remember, Aaron. So I think it was actually Aaron Paul or somebody changed the way we did it, where actually we started that we would read the same sequence over and over and over and never move on. So like we would do things in smaller chunks to keep the momentum going. And that was, I think, a very helpful discovery in like the working in the audio drama space.
Yeah, I don't know how interested your audience is in like the nuts and bolts of production, but I don't know, I find it Very interesting. The process we use, which I think I'm a huge fan of, is basically the first take. We would just read the scene out, right? So various actors or us, we would just go through every line, and that's really just so the actor that we're recording can kind of hear it, hear the scene in its entirety, and then we would just give them the cue lines, right? We would talk a little bit, just give them the cue lines, capture it again, and then after that, we would either do it 9 more times, depending on how well the actor was doing, or just do pickups, meaning they would take, one line individually, hi, how you doing? And they would give it to us 3 different ways. Because in audio, you can really micromanage in a way that you can't do for TV. When I'm, writing a TV show and the actor is on set and gives their performance opposite the other actors, you're kind of getting whatever they're giving you in the 2 or 3 takes that you have time for. Here, you can really have the actor do each line 50 times if you want. And then in editing, you can just pick out whichever take works best with the other actor that you're recording, 6 months later. So if you're kind of a perfectionist, it's dangerous because you can really kind of perfect it.
Ryan?
That was a big learning, is that we would do some rewriting, Aaron, I think, in the moment or after to clarify certain things. But for the most part, we tried to stay off the script or within the boundaries of the script because, there's a big hole you can get into with the perfectionism side of things. You kind of just need to again, like I said before, trust the actor, trust the production team, trust in post that the sound mixer and designer will know how to kind of blend everything together. So yeah, there was a learning in the beginning. You're kind of tempted to get into the kind of perfectionism of it all, but then you just learn to let it go.
And there is so much, obviously audio and sound are a huge part of an audio drama. To what extent, if at all, did you collaborate with the sound designers, with the Broadway video guys, about what kinds of effects, what kinds of cinematic audio you could insert in to keep the drama going along and to help with transitions? Because you have to rely on audio cues for all of those things. To what extent did you guys kind of play back and forth with sound designers?
So it's all in the script. Every sort of sound design, every soundscape element is in the script, whether it's, a train running or a pool cue hitting, striking a ball. So our sound engineers were fantastic, but they were sort of working off of, what was in the story already. And then for transitions, after, I don't know, a lot of emails back and forth and, Jim Patterson weighing in, of course, and his team weighing in, with our composer, we settled on a terrific music cue that would help you understand that we were transitioning between scenes.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask about music. Before I forget, I also want to ask about, tell us a little bit about, did you call it cover art bingo? You were playing cover art bingo?
That's a question for Ryan.
Were you surprised when you saw the cover art?
You reveal all of our secrets. No, no, actually, we were super psyched because Audible has a really amazing marketing creative department, best in class. I don't know, they hired from the best places in the universe: film, TV, advertising, publishing, all these places kind of merged together in the Audible creative team. I think what was cool, the bingo we played though, is because, I think, like you said earlier, Denise, character was such an important, environment was such an important character for us. We really worked so hard on sort of the scene setting of a lot of the story. So we were really excited to see what the creative team would pull from. So yeah, we would have things like, did they pull from the tech side? Did they pull from, this twist or that twist? So I think that they really got the project. I think the most exciting thing was we saw early cover art, and it looked very similar to the De Palma movies that had influenced and been part of our conversation, and from the 70s. And we were like, oh my God, how did they know? So
That's great.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's up I think it's up next week on 9 different billboards in LA, which will be cool. There's a different poster for each of our actors, all on that same sort of De Palma vibe, which is cool. And yeah, they're doing a really great marketing campaign for this. It's really nice.
That's great. Congratulations. That's awesome. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat about whiteboards. So I get mine from construction suppliers. So we will give some whiteboard information when I send out the recap later. Yeah. So all you whiteboard fans, there's nothing like a whiteboard and a mind map to just like get your world going. And Aaron, you teach.
Yeah.
So to what extent, I mean, if you, I love asking, because people ask me questions and I don't teach, but I tell them what I think anyway. What would you tell your students about moving into this specific kind of creative writing space? Challenges and benefits?
And I brought a bunch of my former students into this space. It's been a great resource for writers' rooms. Oftentimes, the budgets for these shows don't rival TV show budgets, so you can't hire a giant staff of experienced professionals. But my former students who are all in their early 20s or mid 20s who are looking to break into the business and looking for experience in writers' rooms, there have been great collaborations, which has been really, really, really nice for me. I guess I tell them, the same thing I do when I'm talking to people about television writing or film writing, which is it's all the basics of storytelling. It's coming up with great intentions and great obstacles. And those intentions and obstacles can be anything. The intention can be just to get, from here to the kitchen. And what are the obstacles that are going to befall your protagonist on the way in? Are they going to slip on a banana peel? Are they going to find that the kitchen is closed and have to find another way in? Every single beat of everything I've ever written is just at a strong intention and hopefully a stronger obstacle. And it's really genuinely those same sort of building blocks of storytelling are the same in audio drama as they are in TV.
Ryan, you agree? Or have anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I come into the audio drama space, and Aaron and I were talking about this the other day, in the indie world, and we always get obsessed by cameras and technology and equipment to go shoot our films. And that is so only like 48% of the story. Like you could shoot a movie and have it be out of focus. And if the sound is crisp and clear, and if the drama is there, like Aaron was saying, and the intention is there and the conflict is there, the movie works. It could be out of focus for 90 minutes on a shitty camera. And audio, I don't think we realize it, is so part of our experience as people, and as Aaron says this, that it's an intimate experience, and it is. So I think in thinking about any kind of constructive medium, I think that the idea of like the audio being really good is something that you'll start noticing in any independent lower budgeted film, and it translates really nicely to audio drama because most of our storytelling is through audio.
That's a really good, and I think that I think we're just going to see this field just grow and grow and grow and grow because there's so many different ways you can nonfiction, fiction. You could even reboot old. I would love for somebody to reboot The Shadow.
James Patterson's doing it.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Patterson's, yeah.
Love it. Yes, I love The Shadow. The Shadow knows. There are actually some great, and if Joe reminds me, he's very slack tonight. He's not doing very much. If I'll remember to put in, there are some great links to old radio dramas
Cool.
that are all public domain that folks can download. Teachers, you can use them with your classes just as like a way to sort of get into this form if it's unfamiliar to your students. And I want to get to questions, but before I do that, it's time to show you your cocktail.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So here it is. This was created again by the oh so awesome Shawl Gray, co-owner and mixologist at Little Jumbo here in Asheville. There it is. He said he's been wanting to do this for a while. It's called Death on the Installment Plan. And so I'll have all these ingredients in the recap. Looks delicious. I mean, you know, mezcal and vermouth, just sign me up. But this is actually really tasty. I tried some of it. And that Slingshot cold brew concentrate is from the Slingshot Coffee Company. So it's a really interesting mix of flavors. And Shawl actually created this cocktail a while ago. He's always coming up with different cocktails. He's actually published his own cocktail book, and which I should actually put in the recap as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful book of original cocktails. He's big into historic cocktails, and he said he has had this one in his mind for so long and was waiting for the right time and the right way to bring it out. So you guys got it. Death on the Installment Plan.
Awesome.
Yeah. So someday you guys will physically come to Asheville. We'll do this again and we will all drink those. Okay. Now let's look at some questions. 2-prong question. Okay. What was your favorite Mcnichols film? And in your opinion, what was the best film of the last year?
Wow. Are you guys reading the Mcnichols biography right now by Mark Harris? It's so good.
I'm not, but I will if you say. I haven't read it. Good.
I'm only a few chapters in it. I think Ryan's listening to it too. Yeah, it's so good. Favorite Mcnichols film? I would say I go back and forth a lot. Right now, it's probably Carnal Knowledge, which is, oh my God, it is deserve a rewatch if you haven't seen it in 20 years or if it's new to you.
About that.
If it came out tomorrow, it would still feel insanely edgy and of the times. It's just like about these two true antagonists, especially the Jack Nicholson character. And just, you know, it's a Jules Feiffer script, how hard relationships are, both friendships and romantic relationships. And it's, you know, it's one of those early 70s movies about alienation and the pain of modern life. But maybe that's not a great sale. It's also really funny, and it's also Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel hanging around and Candice Bergen. But yes, I highly recommend that one. And then, yeah, Ryan, I'm curious your answer. My favorite movie in the past year, Ryan and I belong to a film society, and we just had to put in our votes. And I had a lot of trouble coming up with mine. I actually picked Mank, the David Fincher movie, which it hasn't stayed with me as much as I guess I hoped it would after first viewing. But I'm just such a sucker for getting to see, you know, old Hollywood writers' rooms. And, you know, when was the last time you saw a movie where, you know, the lead was a screenwriter? So I'm a sucker for that kind of thing.
Ryan?
My delay, I got to think about it for extra time.
Yeah.
Carnal Knowledge, I agree with Aaron. You can't beat that. And you know, one of the things I will add, I remember Aaron and I would go back and forth on Carnal Knowledge and go into the, I don't know if you remember this, Aaron. There's a amazing 1970s Polish art poster for Carnal Knowledge that is probably one of the best. It's a fortune, but if you could find it on eBay.
No, it's hanging in my
Probably
office.
background.
It's not a fortune, to be clear. It's not a fortune, but it's hanging in my office. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you know this poster. This is exactly why.
Yes.
Okay. So
best movie.
Yep.
I would say it's a tie between Nomadland, Sound of Metal, and this amazing doc, Mole Agent. If you haven't seen that, that's extraordinary.
Wow. Those are better answers than mine.
Okay, next question.
You have the poster.
Yeah.
That's true.
Next question is, how is what you're doing different from scripting a radio play, or is it similar? And we talked a little bit about that earlier. If you want to give, do you want to give just like a quick recap?
Yeah, just that.
Yeah.
Just that it's not. These are radio plays. These are just radio plays that have been updated for a modern audience. So I think that it's a little bit, more sophisticated storytelling with multiple threads, multiple storylines. But I really do think of it, and maybe this isn't the best way to think of it, but I really do think about it as TV without the visuals.
Right. Yeah. Ryan?
Yeah, the only difference I would say is with Audible, which is awesome, it's not advertiser based. So there's not any, you don't have to write around those act breaks like you would in radio.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say is what's cool about Audible is that you could play with the length of time of your episodes. We did not, but we talked a lot about it, and we may in the future on other things. But I think that one of the wonderful things with this craft is trying to figure out and crack like how long an episode can be, should be, and that's worth exploring as we move forward in the medium.
And this is somewhat similar to that. And I don't know, have either of you ever adapted a book for film? And how might that process be similar? Yours is completely original, though.
It's a completely original story, but it's
Right.
using the characters from a James Patterson book. So in that way, it's similar. I've adapted a few books for TV, and every single of the books is different. Obviously, it's different if you're adapting a nonfiction book versus a novel. But when it's nonfiction, I really just use it for research, of course. When it's a novel that I'm adapting, it can be very tricky. Oftentimes, I'll go through the book and I'll just write out, literally just like transcribe all of my favorite scenes from the book to try to see if I can make sense of them in a different format. But it's really about cutting away. It's like that. You're trying to be the sculptor who sees the figure in the rock. It's really just about cutting away all the excess that's great for a novel, all the interior stuff, all the descriptive stuff, and coming up with where the drama is.
Great. I can never tell if Ryan's going to add something or not. It's like a mystery.
It's a fun mystery.
I'll add if you want, but I mean, I think that my only thing with novels is that I try to keep as close to the source material as possible. I'm just one of those people that believes that the author really set the guardrails. But it's the only time for film writing where I will get physical with the items, and I will rip pages out of books, which the author would hate, but I put the pages, like the pages that are important to me, and I keep them with the script as I print it out, so that I always have those pages as sort of like a guardrail to come back to.
It's really interesting. What about, we have a question about the business of audiobooks as compared to traditional publishing, with regard to who's funding it. Is it like a podcast in that a provider purchases it, or does a publisher buy it? And it's kind of, I mean, in this sense, Audible acts like a publisher, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to audiobooks and how that might work, but with audio dramas like this, it's very similar to TV, where you get a team together. In this case, the team was me and Ryan and James Patterson, and we went in and made a pitch to Audible. This is what the show is going to be. You don't have to get into budget or cast. You just tell them the story, and if they decide it's a story worth telling, then they fund it. They fund both the writing of the scripts and also the production. And in this case, the production was through Broadway Video. So Audible gives a certain amount of money to Broadway Video, and they act as the production entity. And so then it's up to them to hire the script supervisor and the sound engineers and the director and all those kind of crew members, just like in TV, to actually make the thing a reality.
And now Ryan. or
The
no?
value in this business, I think in the audio business, to keep it a lot. No, I'll answer it for my point of view, is that the value in this business is really in the creator's power to make things with the providers like Audible and other ones like that that are compelling audio dramas and that aren't just don't just exist to generate other content. So they're not being used as a foundation for television shows or movies or comic books. I think that the creators are where this medium is going to really succeed is with creators who really take it seriously. And I think that's like the part that the business, and I think that's great about places like Audible. They've been around for 30 plus years or something like crazy like that. And they've been in the audio business for that long. So, they're really supportive of the creators in that way.
And can I just say, I really I can see the chat here that I'm being busted when I said how few movies have screenwriters as protagonists. People are absolutely right to point out Trumbo and The Way We Were and Dick Van Dyke Show. There definitely are some of them. Shakespeare in Love. Writers, for the most part, playwrights, writers, screenwriters, adaptation's a great one. I think the idea is that they don't make great protagonists because they're not as active, right? They're struggling internally. They're struggling with pen to paper, which oftentimes can be death in drama. But I'm with everybody that if people who are able to crack it, like Charlie Kaufman, like Tom Stoppard, the pursuit of a great piece of drama can be just as active as any action hero movie.
We had a question about just a basic question about how did you guys end up connecting with James Patterson?
So I was set up with Patterson's guys by my agent. I was set up with them to talk about doing one of Patterson's books for TV. And it came to nothing, but I remember calling Ryan and saying, I've got this great situation with Patterson where it's sort of like an open door. Wasn't able to make it work with TV. And Ryan said, I have a great situation with Audible for these audio dramas. So we joined forces and brought those two elements together. And now Patterson and Audible have gone ahead and made this giant deal together where Patterson's going to be making a lot of audio dramas over the next few years.
Fantastic. And Ryan, nothing.
I covered it.
Nothing.
That's how I remember it.
And did you guys we had a question about whether or not you guys actually listened to any old radio plays to kind of get into the groove for what you were doing, any Firesign Theater or anything like that to kind of put you in the mindset.
Yeah, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a big audio drama fan from back when, that's what I learned mostly from Stan Lee, which is that the comic book medium came out of audio dramas. So I love serialized storytelling. I love audio stories from the heyday. So a lot of audio listening. For this particular project, it was mostly drawn though from other media as inspiration, I would say. Is that right, Aaron? Pretty much for this one.
Yeah, before I started this, the only audio drama I had heard was Homecoming, which I thought was terrific. The Gimlet show that turned into a Julia Roberts TV show. I've since, of course, listened to a bunch of audio dramas, but I think Ryan is actually much better versed than I am in what's good, what's out there.
And we're running a little over tonight, but you guys are far too interesting. What, if you can tell us, what are you working on now?
We're running over because before Ryan answers any question, there's a 15-minute pause. I'm doing a bunch more audio dramas. I've kind of fallen in love with the medium. So I'm doing several more, which are incredibly fun. I really, really, really like them. And then, TV development. I'm adapting a Tennessee Williams biography into a limited series. And I've got a limited series about 1960s Hollywood set up with the network, which I'm excited about. And then I've got a CIA Hollywood TV show, which I'm in the middle of packaging to take out. TV is hard right now with the pandemic. Everything is sort of going slowly. People are buying less because they're now going to make the things that they would have made a year ago if the pandemic hadn't hit. So I'm incredibly thankful that I discovered audio drama through Ryan, and that it's a great outlet for dramatic writers.
Ryan?
Again, more audio is coming down the pike this year, and I've got a feature that was an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, that we're hoping to shoot this year, but we don't know what it's going to look like. But, it's a good time now to be nimble with how you write, which I think is what's so nice about like living in this time period. You can be simultaneously working in publishing and audio dramas and TV and film, and it all informs each other, which is kind of exciting. That's most of my work is approached that way.
If people want to keep up with what you guys are doing, what's the best way to do that?
There's no way for me.
Do you do the Twitter or the any of the things?
I'm on Twitter. It's just my name, Aaron D. Tracy. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of social media. I guess I like reading Twitter a lot. I just don't love contributing to it, which is maybe not a great habit.
No, I think it's a fine habit. I actually think it's very good. I have a love-hate. I've gone off everything for a year, and then I'll dive back in, and then I'll leave again. It's tricky.
Yeah, but Ryan's on more social media.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to put everybody's handles.
Yeah, my name. My just put my name. Yeah, just my name.
I'll take care of it. Okay, everybody. March 17th on Craft is going to be a lot of fun. We're talking to Leslie Lair and her husband, John Truby. So if you have boobs or know anyone who has boobs, Leslie's book, A Boob's Life, just came out, and it is spectacular. It's getting a lot of fantastic press. Salma Hayek actually just optioned it to develop it, and it just came out today. So it's really kind of taking off. And it talked, in all seriousness, A Boob's Life talks about everything from fascination with them to reconstruction, cancer. It's an amazing book, and Leslie and her husband John will be here to talk about how that came to pass on March 17th. You can register here. I will get the recap out. All of this will be available here, archived. You can come back to Crowdcast or on YouTube. And thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us, Denise. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. And congratulations, March 11th, The Coldest Case. Give it a listen. It's exciting stuff.
And good luck to you on your audio drama.
Thank you. Yes, we'll do this again. Awesome. Thanks, everybody, and stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you soon. Bye.